remember where we come from. We come from, you get the room divider with the 3-piece lounge suite and the coffee table, 0 deposit and 36 months to pay. So there was already a model that, even we had a 3-piece lounge suite with the room divider, and a room divider that never divided any room, by the way. Remember?
Yeah, no, room dividers don't divide rooms. Room dividers sit on the wall, the one side.
Yes.
You have the TV and you have the different things.
Yes. So that's the world we come from. I designed my mom's house to the same spec that I would do any of my clients' homes. And I found that my mom brought me into this world, but with this project, I brought her into my world. It was important because she did not understand, but once I did it and she saw her life in a different way, that spaces could be not just functional, but they could also be functional and beautiful. And she had 3 boys her entire life, so she could never really have fragile ornaments and objects. And now she does, and she's got a beautiful home. She's got, the most beautiful home amongst her friends, she says, and her friends have told her that.
Welcome to the Listen to Your Footsteps podcast. I'm your host, Kojo Baffoe. In this podcast, I speak to Africans from across a multitude of sectors, including business, art, culture, media, design, technology, advertising, and everything in between, delving into their journeys and reflecting on the lessons they have learned along the way. It's about gaining insight into why and how they do what they do. These conversations offer a treasure trove of takeaways on a wide range of topics, including craft, relationships, wellness, parenting, entrepreneurship, and much more. So my guest today is Donald Nxumalo. He's an interior designer and founder and creative director of Donald Nxumalo Interior Design.
Yay.
Right?
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So before we started, it'd be cool to carry on this conversation because we were talking about media training.
Yeah.
So why did you feel the need to get media training?
Well, I didn't feel the need to get media training, but I'd entered a reality show in 2014, and Stain City was launched.
SABC3
on SABC3,
right?
and it was a show. It was called Win a Home. Yeah. And no, I did not win a home, but somebody else won a home. So it was essentially a marketing show for Stain City Properties. They were launching Stain City at the time, and then the marketing manager of Stain City and Top Billing came together, and they said, let's have a really cool competition where we have 4 young designers, and let them each week design a room, and there'll be a winner or a winner of a challenge every single week. And whoever has won the most amount of challenges becomes the winner. And part of the prize was to be one of the preferred interior designers at Stain City, which is a big deal if you look at the kind of homes people build at Stain City, along with the association or the to be part of a brand like that. So that was quite a big deal. And so part of, every week we would basically embark on these challenges, the living room, the bedroom, the kitchen, the patio. But every week we had media training. It was forced.
And on top of that, you're doing it on camera. So you're having to get comfortable with cameras around you all the time.
Yeah, I found it to be very beneficial. At the time, this thing happened at like Friday, 3 p.m. and we are like 23, 24. And, Friday at that time, we are like preparing ourselves for a very big night out. So to be sitting in a media training class or tutorial and be sat down and basically be given notes on how to conduct yourself. Years later, I think it would possibly serve us, I think each one of us, and me in particular, because I did not know that I would become a recognizable face in the design world. And so it was basically, what do you do in media training? How to use your hashtags properly. This was at the time, the hashtag was a big deal, but also how to respond in a crisis. Haven't had to use that. Touch wood. And how to basically navigate the digital space. That was at the time. I suppose right now I can see the benefit can serve you in really big ways, because the internet is forever changing and you just need to be prepared, but also just how to present yourself and how to be consistent. And it's through those lessons about presentation, consistency, even your voice. How do you sound, your clothes? If you wear a tie, what does it mean? If you wear a shirt, what does it mean? If your hairstyle is a particular way, what does it need? All of that is visual language, and visual language creates a perception about you. And if you're consistent with your visual language or how you present yourself, that's how you build a brand. It's very deliberate.
Yeah.
So it was a way to teach us about how to be deliberate in building these brands. And of course, what's the difference between myself and another brand? The difference here is I'm a personality-led brand, right? The personality. So my values as Donald informs the values of my company. So if I'm a hard worker, the company is hardworking people. If I am a person of integrity, my company will be seen as a company with integrity. So that's building brands, but very interesting.
So we talked about it just because I've always been on the other side.
Yes.
I've been on that side as well, but a lot of my work has been on the side of media. And we're talking about there's a lot of stuff that happens behind the scenes that most people don't know or don't realize,
Yes.
Can you send me a list of questions that I'm going to ask you? And
yes.
I was saying that I have traditionally been difficult in that.
Yeah.
I don't have questions for you. Yes. I'm going to ask you these kind of things.
Yes.
Or as having worked in magazine where somebody says, can I see the thing before you publish?
Yeah.
And being on the other side, then you are going to, then it becomes a PR piece, as opposed to if I interview you and then I write a profile of you. If you are now then coming back and saying, oh, could you change this or could you change that? Then it's like, okay, well, then you're actually hiring me to write a press release for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Or an advertorial.
Yeah.
So there's often this behind the scenes of push and pull.
Yes.
And even internally, those days with magazines, there's even that push and pull between the commercial people and the editorial people.
Yes.
Where I'm battling with the sales director because the sales director wants to do this on this particular page.
Yes.
And I'm like, but that's an editorial page. And what you're bringing is something that's paid for. And then I lose the integrity of that page.
For sure. It's like when it's product pushing, right?
Yeah.
And a person can be a product. Do people approach you with suspicion when you approach them? Or how does it, or do you find that because of the work you've done, people are more trusting of you? How does it work?
Well, to do this process, because I'm not attached to any kind of significant, media platform or brand. It's just I sit in my little corner and I have other work, and then I do the podcast because I always wanted to try a podcast. My reputation does help.
Yes, yeah,
it does help. A lot of the people that also because I've been in South Africa and I've been in Joburg for over 20 years. And I went to varsity in Durban.
Okay.
At a particular time in a particular era. So a lot of the people that I was in varsity with or around are now in kind of key positions.
You see, yeah.
Because I was in varsity 92 to 94.
Yes.
So this is lead up to the elections.
Yes.
And then everybody's become professionals, and then I used to do business here before I moved here, and then I've been here and I've worked in television, I did poetry. So often, I guess my reputation does help.
Yes.
I've also had people turn me down.
Okay.
And I've had friends turn me down. But that also, my theory is that right now, when you say podcast, fortunately or unfortunately, there are a couple of podcasts that are prominent that form the idea of what a podcast is for most people.
Absolutely.
And if it's salacious, if it's gossip driven or celebrity driven, when you say podcast, because most people's reference point is only a couple of podcasts.
Yes.
Then they'll go, no, I don't want to. And I'm like, dude, like, we're basically just going to talk shit about you and your life, and your journey and your craft and that kind of stuff.
Yes.
And then also I've had a couple of people kind of go, this is where I am right now.
Yes.
And I don't have the bandwidth.
And do you?
Now you're interviewing me.
I'm interviewing you. You say, but actually, this is what I do. This is my 9 to 5. I really like hearing stories with people, people's stories. Essentially, an interior is basically storytelling. You know,
everything is storytelling.
It's storytelling. Yeah. You know, I mean, although this is on my website that every space has a story to tell because every human being has a story to tell. And it's my job as a designer to help my clients tell that story. I do mean it. And I think the best designers in the world are interested in people's stories, because I find that with what I bring, with my talent and my the technical ability to execute on a project, what truly makes a project remarkable is my ability to weave in the client's story. And it could be through any interest that they have, but that differentiates it between something you find on Pinterest and really Kojo's family home. You must walk into that space and truly meet yourself.
So in essence, you're doing what I do.
Yes. Yeah.
Because you're trying to get a sense of a human being.
Yes.
Mine is slightly easier because I just let you do it. And,
yes.
And then somebody out there listening is interpreting it.
Yes.
Whereas you're having to translate that. You're having to translate the feeling.
Yes.
The essence of a person.
Yes.
Or the values of a person or the aesthetic of a person.
Yes.
You're having to translate all of that into something tangible.
Yes. Well, whether or not we intend to translate a message or a mood in a space, there is a mood that happens in a space, whether you like it or not.
Sure.
The trick is to be intentional about it. And when I lean into your story, I'm able to listen and absorb and truly translate it and be intentional about telling it the right way or in a way that feels comfortable for you. And I think that people have multiple personalities, not in a bad way, but I think that I've done homes I've done homes in different locations for the same person.
Okay.
And each home looks different. It is, yeah. It's nice
to have somebody do homes for me and homes in different, or to have homes in different locations.
Did I ever tell you how I started when I came to Joburg? I came here like 15 years ago, and I worked for a family, just designing their homes. And
family.
You know how people in like Switzerland have family offices where they've got like a lawyer and an accountant. They had the same, but then they also added interior designer.
That's brilliant.
So for like 2-3 years, we worked on all their homes to get them to a level where they really felt like these homes represent us. And that was a really cool gig. And then we moved on to doing their friends' homes and their associates' homes. And that was cool. It was really my introduction to perhaps like wealth in South Africa. And this is the city of gold. So it was in Joburg. And so it was an introduction and a lesson in that will set me up for my business later on, right? And the lessons there were anticipating people's needs, and learning the ways of how these people live. So when I started my business, I kind of knew how to behave, the sort of style people like, what they gravitate towards, and how do you tell and how do you design with intent.
And operating without judgment, I can imagine.
Absolutely. I mean, some people in their homes prefer to, some people use their homes for business. So then it's pitched at a particular level because they want to be able to entertain their friends and to entertain their associates. And so the home is therefore communicating. What's it communicating? Power.
So I've been exploring bonsai, growing bonsai.
Okay.
And
You must be a patient person.
I really, as I've become older, I've become much more patient and calmer. But the guy that I did a course with, the way you were doing kind of design for one family, he said his job for a couple of years was literally managing the bonsais of one family.
Really? Wow.
And I mean, bonsai, they can become very expensive. And I mean, the line is that you don't grow a bonsai for yourself, you grow it for your children. It's like the Patek Philippe story.
Yes.
Because I mean, it takes forever for the thing to grow.
Yes.
And then you need to prune it, and you need to wire it.
To grow to what? To miniature size.
It's miniature size, but it's so for example, it's even how you're going to grow it and how you're going to guide it and the flow of it. The branches, it's going to lean off to the side. Is it going to be a canopy?
Oh, wow.
And then the different types of trees and how different. Like I'm still early in my journey.
Yeah. But isn't it fantastic that there are people who have careers like that?
Yeah.
It's like fantastic. It's like, like what you say, podcasting. This wasn't a thing before.
So when did you kind of go, oh, there's a career called interior design and I want to do it?
I grew up in beautiful, clean spaces. My mother always kept a clean house. It was beautiful. My friends always said my mom's house was beautiful, or my parents' house was beautiful. And so when a show came about, it was called Extreme Makeover Home Edition.
I remember that. I used to love watching it.
Yes. And it was during Mnet Open Time. They still have open time. Yeah. Okay. It was during Mnet Open Time. So, and I think it was like at open time ended at...
It was like 6 to 7 or something.
Yeah. And then the TV went, it went all fuzzy.
You went back to SABC.
You went back to SABC to watch National Geographics. That was the schedule on Sunday. Extreme Makeovers Home Edition was a group of designers. I think there were like 5 designers who helped families in need transform their home, and in turn transform their lives. And so at the end of the show, they would invite the family back. So first of all, a worthy family would be chosen, people who are fostering children, adopted children. There was always a need, or they'd gone through a really turbulent time with a sickness or an illness, that kind of thing.
It was great television.
It was great.
It was always a nice one.
Tears. They were like tears. And it was just, you would cry in the beginning of the show. Like, it was so sad. And then the designers would come in and do the most incredible work for the family. They would extend the house, give the children their own bedrooms that were unique and that were just, unique, and they felt the kids would absolutely love. They'd give the mother, who's obviously at this time overworked, they'll give her little sanctuary, a reading corner. They'll organize the dad's shed with all his tools. And so there was a great level of personalization that went into these homes. And so I looked at that and I said, oh, is this what interior design is? But what I liked was when at the end of the show, the family would come back and the reaction of everyone, like literally the children would be beside themselves with excitement. The parents would be crying because they couldn't believe that this happened to them. So that feeling of the heightened emotion, high design, high tech, and it was high touch. I fell in love with that, and I think I fell in love with what those transformations could do. And later on, I've realized that as we design and we transform spaces, we also transform people's lives. People aren't always left the same way. Yeah. And I think that feeling is true. It was obviously heightened with the camera of the lens of the camera. Obviously, people acted up, but I've seen that in real life, and it's like every day I live like I'm on an episode of Extreme Makeover.
So, at what age were you where you kind of
16
decided this was the path?
16. I was going to become a I went to church like every Sunday, like with my parents, and I had a friend, and they were from Kenya, and his father worked for the Kenyan High Commission in Pretoria, and so they drove a Pajero, and I remember all I wanted was a Pajero. So I thought, if I'm gonna have a Pajero and live in a fancy suburb in Pretoria, you have to be a diplomat. So I had two choices going to university. I was going to study political science or interior design. I filled in the form for political science. I was going to go to the University of Pretoria. I just never did hand it in. I handed in one application that was for interior design without an art background, and I got in.
And at home, what was, your parents, when you said this is the route that you're going?
It was, I was a creative child. So I had done things to my room. I had painted the floor. I had made my own curtains with just loose fabrics. I had sewed my own cushions. So there was some semblance of talent and intent and interest in this field. So when I told them that this is what I wanted to study, they said, yeah, sure, go for it. My father actually, he wanted me to be a doctor. And I don't think he looked at my 40% math standard grade mark
and thought, this is definitely a doctor.
Genius.
Maybe even a surgeon.
Yes, genius. Genius level mathematics mark. I literally had standard grade, 40%. There was just no way, And so they said to me, we cannot tell you what to do with your career. It's like us telling you who to marry. That's your choice, and you need to be okay with that choice and really commit to it. So they were really quite supportive in that. They were really, really quite supportive in that. They weren't supportive in like overtly supportive like that, but the fact that they let me do it and did not stand in my way, I think that's remarkable.
Without conflict and without tension.
Listen, there were no interior designers that I knew of. There were just no interior designers that I knew of. So there was nothing that I was going on except for the fact that I wanted to do this. Did they ask me where I would work? I said, yeah, they did. I don't remember what answer I gave, but I did it anyway.
Because not even that long ago, interior design was, the general perception was just a person who kind of room. Stuff into a room. So even the idea of studying it, I think for broader, let's say broader society, like it's one of those things, maybe because it feels so accessible. It's like I can go and buy a vase, I can buy curtains, like I've been doing it anyway.
100%.
Like I've been doing it anyway.
100%.
So the perception of interior designs in terms of as a professional was not the best as compared to, for example, an architect or even a fashion designer. But with fashion designer, it was like, okay, yeah,
you can see it.
You can kind of see it, but also there was like, okay, I think I can make clothes. I'm going to do fashion.
Yes.
Whereas with interior design, it's even worse than fashion, because it's just like, yeah, you just go and buy stuff.
Yeah,
and you put it in a room.
And remember,
you make the room look pretty.
Remember where we come from. We come from Russell's, Bradlow's, Ellerine's, Town Talk era.
Joshua Doe.
Yeah, where you get the room divider with the 3-piece lounge suite and the coffee table, 0 deposit and 36 months to pay, or 72 months to pay.
Or lay-by.
So there was already a model that, even we had a 3-piece lounge suite with the room divider, and a room divider that never divided any room, by the way. Remember?
Yeah, no, room dividers don't divide rooms. Room dividers sit on the wall, the one side.
Yes.
You have the TV and you have the different things.
Yes. So that's the world we come from, where the dining room is from the same place. The living room comes preset. This is how it's set. It's a 3-seater for the children. It's a 2-seater for mom and dad. And there's a 1-seater for dad when he eats or something, and everybody had their own space to sit, right?
Yeah.
So that's where we come from. So of course, my parents didn't understand what this was. It's only recently when I, went back home, did a whole entire renovation.
Did you?
Yeah, I did. And I designed my mom's house because they separated. I designed my mom's house, and also I'm busy with my dad's house now. So but I first started with my mother. I designed my mom's house to the same spec that I would do any of my clients' homes. And, I found that, my mom brought me into this world, but with this project, I brought her into my world, right? And it was important because she did not understand, but once I did it and she saw her life in a different way, that spaces could be not just functional, but they could also be functional and beautiful. And she had 3 boys her entire life, so she could never really have, fragile ornaments and objects. And now she does, and she's got a beautiful home. She's got, the most beautiful home amongst her friends, she says, and her friends have told her that, But her son, they call her house top billing.
I mean, that's amazing. That's an amazing gift to be able to give parents.
Yeah, it was beautiful for me because it felt, how people would say, the question would be, when did you feel you've arrived? For me, when I could do that for my parents. It was a really special moment where my life as I have it and my life at home and my public life, it was also consistent. There was an alignment. There was nothing that was, what's the word? It was congruent.
Yeah.
Like when she sees me on TV in a beautiful home, her home looks like that.
Yeah.
Like that fabric that I'm pointing at, they've got that. The artwork, she's got that. It's important for me to have done that. Felt like it was the most beautiful gift I could give them.
No, absolutely. I can't think of anything better coming from the space that you're in. And being able to translate that, because it also says we are, I don't like to use the word, but I'm going to use it anyway. We are all deserving.
Absolutely.
We're all deserving.
Yes.
Regardless of who you are.
Yes.
We're all deserving of kind of that element, that level of deliberateness and beauty and consideration.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's the gift that you've given.
Yes.
And when you say her friends describe it a particular way, you've also brought it closer. I mean, I don't know the background, but you've also brought it closer to the friends.
Yes.
Because for me, it's that. It's like, it doesn't matter who you are, at what level you're deemed to be by our very classist-driven societies.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
But it's like, regardless of who you are and where you are, we all deserve that level of consideration, even if it's just within our means.
Yes, it also comes with a background story. When I was in varsity, my father worked for the post office, my mother worked for the church, in their bookstore. So they didn't earn much money. And so they'd had throughout our lives had to refinance their home. Do you know that story? People having to do that.
Yeah.
So you could buy a home for, let's say, 200,000. And then, like, let's say 5 years down the line, the bank can come and reevaluate it. And if they put it at 400,000, then you can refinance it. And then you now owe them 400,000 and they'll give you the difference, maybe the 200, whatever. They just give you so my parents did that to put us through university. So by the time I was working for myself, paying off their loan for the house was the first step. And I remember my father saying, I've never touched a title deed before. And if you think about the history of our country, it's quite a moment for him. He said, I've never seen a title deed in my life, and I have a title deed with my name on it. But to go beyond that and then, sort of not demolish the entire thing, but reconfigure it to be bigger, to give them the kitchen they want, the living room that they want, and bring them through the process that I would ordinarily take my clients with, and make them feel special. And even the photos on the wall that reflect our lives as children and their lives, and to basically not see them only as my parents, but humanize them.
Yeah.
We've got pictures of my dad at 19 years old, before we were even born. So that's a way to tell a story of these people that birthed us in a way that honors their story before we were even here. And that's what makes interior design for me remarkable, is to have somebody seeing their story manifested. Yes, we use objects and things, but it goes beyond that. You're actually validating people. You're making them feel seen, and you're reflecting back to them who they are.
Yeah.
And that, yes, they are deserving and they are beautiful. And who better to do that than their son, and me to do it for my parents.
What is your creative process? I mean, if I pitch up as a client and I'm, my house pretty.
Yeah.
And I live with 3 other people.
Oh, they're okay. Like, wow, 2 low humans and
Yeah.
It's an interview process like this. So I would have clients come into my office, and I would run them through the projects and show them what I've done before. I think first and foremost, when you're looking for a designer, you need to find somebody whose work resonates with you, right? When you're coming to Donald, there is a particular style that I've become proficient at, and it is handwriting. So I am confident enough in my ability to give you a beautiful home that first meeting is about listening to who you are. Because just because you might be a successful business exec doesn't mean that you want your home to be flashy with gold detail.
Sure,
some people want like the deepest sofa they can find, and because they just want to climb in that sofa and relax, because home is a sanctuary. Right? So it's about establishing what this home should be and who are these people living in this home. And of course, we speak about budgets, and I'll go back and I put some ideas together and I come back and I present to you. But I do hope, and I say to my clients, like, have you had a conversation with yourself that you need me? Right? Do you need an interior designer? Because, it's elective. Like, not everybody needs an interior designer. Some people have great enough taste and style that they can pull it off together. They can pull it off themselves. I prefer the clients who are willing and to work with an interior designer and whose style resonates. So I would ask them that, do you feel that my style, and does it work for you? Because you need to know that you're at the right place, because this bus is going that direction. So you need to know that you're on the bus, the right bus. So Kojo, you need to know that you're putting your family on the right bus, right? And so the creative process is about dialogue. It's about me giving you information around what the price point, how this project could be, what type of project this could be, the timelines, and what you could expect in this process, like in terms of timelines, how long this will take. Usually our projects are between 12 weeks, 16 weeks, because people are coming in, they are wanting to modify some spaces in their home, break up spaces to bring in more light, maybe even making windows bigger, adding skylights, breaking off the floor. Just how involved is it? And sometimes we do get architects involved. So that meeting really just facilitates facilitates information. And thereafter, then I do the designs. It takes about 12 to 16 weeks for a project to kick off and to end.
Talk a bit about the process of finding your voice within all of this. You talk about the bus going a particular direction. So, for example, like if I come to you, it's just like, going to a fashion designer. Like, I recently had Sheldon Kopman on the podcast, and I've known Sheldon for years. So he has a particular aesthetic that I connect with. right? It's just like there's certain musician
Yes.
that resonates,
Yes.
and it's usually because their voice is also clear,
Exactly.
right? And as a writer, that's kind of part of the process of being a writer, is gradually finding your voice. So what was your process, and what was that journey like in terms of finding your voice, and how would you define that voice today?
My name is Ndleleni, which is a Tsonga name for on a journey. So I never feel like I've arrived at a particular place. It's always evolving, and I allow myself to evolve. I believe that in the process of finding yourself, there's obviously influences around you. For me, I find a lot of inspiration in travel. I remember going to Marrakesh, Morocco, and that trip being a deeply personal trip. Just in seeing how people are able to use whatever they have to create beautiful spaces. Like just something as simple as you'd walk into people's homes and they would have a big bowl of just oranges or lemons, and because that's what they have there. They're not growing bananas. It's a desert. Right? So I come home and I reflect on it, and my job is to be more Donald and to use the resources that I have within myself to give you a product that is more Donald. And so I think it's about just being honest. It's about sometimes not looking at the internet too much. And it's about listening to yourself. I sometimes, some of the best places that I look for inspiration are fabric stores, looking at fabric and coming up with color schemes, looking at a fabric swatch. But an old one, like the 90s, and not being so fixated on creating the new.
Sorry, you just freaked me out. Like an old one, the 90s.
Oh, sorry.
Like, the 90s were the other day, dude. Let me talk about an old one.
95 was 30 years ago, isn't that?
Yeah, 95,
Those 30 years.
I was working in out of university.
I was 7 years old. I was starting grade 1.
That
was 30 years ago. Yeah, the 90s.
It's relative. So for me, the 90s are...
Yeah. But finding your voice, I think, has always been, it's like developing yourself. But it's interesting when you're finding your voice in business, because you're sometimes responding to what will sell, right? So it becomes a little bit of walking a tightrope between commerce and your own ability to express. There was a time where people came to me for color. Suddenly, people were coming for more beige and muted tones, and I got so frustrated. I'm sick of doing beige. I'm sick of doing, not sick of it, but you're wanting something else. But I reflect on the fact that I'm really great with color, but also I'm really great with a more neutral space. So I'm responding to both those instances, and not being so. In business, you're responding to just different dynamics. So yeah, I think finding your voice is tricky. But I find that I'm at the right place now where, I think my work is sophisticated and it is refined. It's also layered. And, when I look at the work, I find that, there is a definite voice there. And listening to how the clients describe the work makes me know that, okay, I think there's a nice handwriting that they're describing here. So sometimes I'm not fully conscious of how I create or what I am creating, but through the feedback and people saying, I really love when you did this, how you did this bold pattern on the sofa. And that shows me or teaches me, oh, I'm brave like that, So the voice is brave. It's very layered. It is also living in Africa, but also having clients with a global sensibility. You're finding that your work becomes so much more interesting because you are obviously wanting to reflect the location of where you work, but also honor the client's personalities and tastes and how they see themselves.
I mean, it does feel that you're part of I wouldn't call it a movement. Maybe it is a movement of young contemporary African designers who have gone beyond when something is African, it's traditional. So have gone beyond that, but not gone all the way to how it used to be. Is I don't do African stuff, but it's international stuff, and it just goes all the way the other way. With I mean, we're talking about it like it's not a continent, or like it's a continent, which irritates me to no end, but we'll do it anyway. Where kind of that diversity of cultures and design and color and fabric and all of those things is approached with a very contemporary eye. So it's not making a statement. I think before it was like, to be African or to represent your country, it's like
you had to show them.
You're making a statement.
Yes,
like
yes.
The t-shirt or the shirt is cut the way it's been cut forever. Yeah. And there's no variation on it.
Yes. It's very interesting because some comments I get I've had these comments before on my Instagram. People say, when are you going to do more African work? Can you show us Africa? And although I think that I find that it's unfair to be expecting African designers to constantly give you that, because it means that we cannot express other parts of ourselves. You are locked into this thing and this category of Africa, and you must give us that. And sometimes I think that's but also in another sense, I think you do have a responsibility because you are being seen as a thought leader in this space to sort of like direct the narrative or to give direction in terms of design in South Africa. And I think that's a beautiful thing. So I think it's a calling that people are saying, you need to perhaps show us how we can, exist in this space, and show us how to use our voices in terms of style in the space. It is fair, But sometimes
I think it's a balance. It's a balancing act, and it like I'd say maybe it's particularly difficult now for you because you are part of the group, and it's across the continent. Like kind of leading voices in that space.
Yeah.
At the same time, years ago, one of my cliched lines used to be, it's an African thing because I am doing it and I am African.
Absolutely.
Right? So I'm not going to worry about the language of it being overtly, but by nature of my doing it, and because I have grown up in 2-3 countries on the continent, and I'm influenced by multiple cultures on the continent. Because I'm doing it, it's African.
Yes, exactly.
And maybe it's that idea of shifting from overt to kind of the subtle.
Yes.
And being able to say, actually, that's all right. So when you talk about going to, I was fortunate enough to go to Marrakesh years ago, and I only spent 2-3 days there. But when you talk about, for example, use of color,
yes,
and it's the desert, and it's flowing, it's flowing fabrics, and it's like the sand and the buildings. There's a particular color palette. I'm thinking back to kind of being in Marrakesh. And
yes, there is a particular.
When you go to the souks,
yes,
there's a particular color palette.
Yeah.
As a base, but there's also multiple kind of colors in there.
Yes.
Now, if you were designing a space and it's about the flow of things and it's about the color, you can actually say, look, it was inspired by an African environment, African country. It doesn't have to be a kente cloth or indebele, patterning or whatever for it to be African.
I love that you talk about that, because what you're talking about, there's also just business. right? Because people are coming to us not just to get a look, but they're also coming to support a business. And for me, I would really like to stay in business and give my clients what they are there for. And not everybody's looking for that look that you say is African. But the other thing that you mentioned that I really like is because I've touched it and I've put it together and it's conceptualized by an African, that makes it African. And because I had somebody saying to me, again, somebody else said, "Oh, this doesn't look African," and I remember reflecting on it and thinking to myself, so this was made in a factory owned by a black person, conceptualized by a black designer who's got a team of 11 employed people, and that factory has 50 other people. We're more than just a look.
Yeah.
It's more than just a look. And to reduce it to just a look is so myopic. It's not taking the bigger picture in mind. I mean, so a lot of our projects now are outside of South Africa. We do work in like parts of Zambia, in Nairobi. We've just had a container 2 months ago arriving in the UK. It's made in South Africa, and people are coming to us and saying, conceptualize it, make it for us, and ship it to us. And the story is bigger than...
It's that sensibility, is that eye, is that particular aesthetic, it's that particular business and how
absolutely
that business is operating.
I could be on a site. I remember being on a site and this guy runs up to me, young guy, like, you know, me. And he said, "Donald, I'm working for the cupboards guy." And, you know, I was at home for all these years and now I'm working, and thanks for the work. That's all he had to say to me. Thanks for the work. Oh, and I thought, oh, wow, that's a really nice thing to say. But those things move you. In the context of South Africa, even Africa, where unemployment is just so high, that kind of conversation moves you. So I don't feel like I'm only making a difference to a look. I'm making a difference in people's lives, not just the client's life, but the people working on these things.
You are listening to the Listen to Your Footsteps podcast, a podcast in which I chat to Africans from a cross-section of society and sectors, including art, culture, design, business, and creativity, to name a few. We delve into their journeys, the decisions they have taken to get to where they are, how they do what they do, and everything in between. Essentially, we go wherever the spirit takes us. Now let's get back into the conversation. What have been the hardest lessons in terms of running a business? Because you could have just been a designer, operate on your own.
I think the biggest fallacy is business people are born. I believe I wouldn't have described myself as a business person. But I am in business, and that makes me a business person. I had a talent, there was an opportunity, and I took the opportunity, and it grew. I started working from my bedroom, then I went to someone's storeroom in a showroom. You know, I worked in a storeroom within a showroom, and they came to me one day and they said to me, "Listen, we're shutting down part of the showroom. Do you want to have a piece?" So I got my furniture maker to make me some pieces, and I put it onto their showroom. And so we laughed. We said we moved from the storeroom to the showroom, right? So some of the lessons that I've learned had been just around scaling too quickly, too big too quickly. Overheads is an actual thing. But now that I've been in business for 11 years, I'm like astounded at the fact that I'm still here, because some things you just do intuitively. I didn't have the money to have a showroom, but I just thought, oh yeah, let's do it. And it worked out. So some of those lessons have been hard, like you can maybe like land on your ass, but some of the lessons has been like, Donald, look at that. You've actually done it, and you haven't listened to those people who said to you, that's just too quickly, slow down. But I find that if you treat people fairly, if you have integrity, like things will go well for you. I think the biggest lesson has been in integrity, not that I've been without integrity, but seeing people operate without integrity. And the lesson has been integrity having integrity or running your business with integrity is expensive because it means you need to pay your taxes, you need to pay fairly, you need to pay your PAYE to the PAYE, the VAT. Also, you need to deliver on time, a quality service and a quality product. That's expensive because you might not be making as much money. You might not be walking home with as much money because you see all this money going to different people. But not having integrity is costly.
Yeah.
Like, they can shut you down.
Yeah.
How many cases have you seen of business people just going out of business dodging tax, operating out of integrity? So that's the lesson. Having integrity is expensive because it means maybe like there's a defect in the furniture piece. You'll have to fix it at your own cost, but not fixing it will cost you future opportunities. Yeah. They'll just not tell people about you, or they'll tell everybody about you, and that will cost you. So that's what I'll say. Having integrity is expensive. Not having integrity is costly.
What designs or what designers are exciting you? Because you work with a range of, we're talking fabric, we're talking furniture. Who or what's exciting you right now? If anything, maybe you're not excited by anything.
Yes. I'm a visual person and I love stories. So I like Tebe Magugu's stories. Like every time he releases a range, I want to know what inspired it, and his ability to narrate and to also reflect back on his childhood or where he comes from, and to be able to tell that story through cloth and through the imagery. And it's undeniable that it's in South Africa. A lot of the images are shot in Kimberley, referencing his own family. It's beautiful to honor where you come from, and you find that is so priceless, and you cannot copy that.
Yeah. That's
within you. And so if somebody else tries to replicate that, we'll pick it up so quickly. So his ability to have a really strong storytelling aspect to how he does his things, but also to layer that with a quality product that just stands the test of time, and just being a brand that is just good. Is beautiful. We're not controversial here. We're just doing our job. We're in business and we're carrying on. I think that we don't always have to have sparks flying the whole time. You could just come to work and do your job, and you blink in 20 years, you're still here. That's the kind of business I want to have.
So that's what's fascinating me about you, because today was the first time we kind of properly met.
Yes.
But I've kind of seen you and seen what you're doing over the last 10 plus years.
Yes.
And it's always felt very, very consistent, very understated, but not in a negative way. It's like, it feels like you've just gotten on with it.
Yes.
And then, something happens like, oh, that's what's going on.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
The last time I checked, there was just, what looked like little projects here and there.
Yes.
And I think something that you said earlier on, which is a conversation I've had with my wife, of all people, was around this idea of celebrating your wins.
Yes.
Right? But so I was partially arguing against it, because a lot of my work for many years was, let's say, public facing.
Yeah.
So people saw the things that I was doing, and what paid my bills was visible. But it hasn't been the case for a very long time. So what pays my bills, nobody knows about.
Wow.
And it's not sexy. It's my work.
Yes.
Like I wake up and I get on with my work. And it doesn't need to be broadcast. It doesn't need to be talked about.
Yeah.
Right? Because the nature of the work, it's not in the nature of that work. Right? And so when I've watched you over the years, it's like, I know that you're in that space, and you look like you're doing well, because 10 years later, I'm still seeing you in the same space.
Yes.
But when you talked about, for example, your first kind of real work was you designed for a family.
Yes.
That's the work that nobody knows about. And that's also the work in this, I'm a brand, human being as a brand world.
Yeah.
It's unnecessary.
Yes. And what I love most about my business, and maybe having built the business over 10 plus years, is just the repeat clients. People coming back, man. There is just no greater compliment. There's no greater compliment. But when you stuff it up, you'll always have new clients.
Yeah, that's true.
When you stuff it up, you'll always need new clients.
Everybody's always new.
Yeah, so I oftentimes I'll go quiet on social media because I'm just so busy from, the clients that walk in, like the phone rings every day and my phone's ringing. I mean, I moved from, the phone ringing once every week. And sometimes me having to say to a client, in the beginning, you don't want to seem like you're just waiting for that client. You don't want to seem too eager. So you're like, oh, Wednesday? Sorry, let me just check in my diary. Sorry, can we do Thursday? When you know very well.
Yeah.
Wednesday.
You could have done Tuesday.
Yes. It's like, and now, I remember how I landed my first job in the UK was, I'd gone with a fabric house and invited me to see their production and their warehouse in dispatch. And so we landed in London and the hotel rooms weren't ready. So we went to their showroom. And after looking at the fabrics at the showroom, we went back to the hotel and I got a DM on Instagram. Someone said, Donald, was that you? And I realized that this lady had sent an email. So not an email, like a DM, like a year prior, asking me when I'd be in London. And I had sort of said, in 6 months' time, that lady happened to be in that fabric store on that day with her husband looking for fabrics. I met them for lunch in that day and they said, this is just, oh my goodness, this just... You could not make it up. You cannot make this up. And 2 days later, they sent a driver and I was, driving through, Anyway, I'll tell you this. When I arrived at the house, she says to me, Donald, did you see Windsor Castle? That's when I was like, oh, is that what that was? No, because we grew up in South Africa. So for me, that could have been the Union buildings. I just thought there was some...
And coming from Pretoria on top of that, you're surrounded by all of these old buildings.
All these old buildings. So it's I thought that could have been a school to me. That could have been, UNISA. I mean, and she said to me, yeah, the king comes here sometimes. So it was beautiful. That I just had chills. I felt, geez, look at this. And it wasn't from, she didn't notice my work from any of this fanfare or from an exhibition. It was just about the values that you translate even online, is that you're consistent and you are producing the quality, you're reliable and you are relatable. And those values can land you somewhere close to Windsor Castle.
And also the world is small.
The world is small.
I mean, I think from a South African context, people are learning it as the country's opened up and people started to travel.
Yes.
But the world is tiny.
The world is tiny.
I mean, you're talking about, I didn't get work from it, but I went to Geneva 2 years ago because my main client is actually in Geneva. So I work remotely for them.
Okay.
So I went to Geneva and then I went to kind of the main street because I was shopping for the family. And this was, I think, my third trip there. So, from my hotel, I know, okay, we're done with the workshops. I know which bus to take to get there, and then I'll walk up and down just because at home there's a list.
Yes.
People want certain things.
Yes.
And my wife wanted moccasins, I think. So my wife wanted shoes and a bag. But it was one of those, it has a specific name. It's like a strap bag that goes over the shoulder.
Yeah.
And now I'm walking in and out of shops, looking for this thing and taking pictures and WhatsApping them home and then phoning and going, What about this one? What about this one?
Yes.
What size did you say again?
Yes.
And a day later, I'm on the train going to the airport to leave. And somebody sends me it wasn't even a DM. It's like, I think they left a comment on an Instagram post or something. And they're like, did you find what you were looking for?
Ah, you see. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because that person lives there.
Yeah.
I don't know how they know about me,
Yes.
but it's like, you're walking down the street on the other side of the world.
Yes.
You think you're anonymous.
Yes.
And somebody's like, hey, I just saw you.
Yes. I love that. I think what the internet has done is given us options, and options with clients as well. It's opened up the world to us as designers, or even as a business, that you now have options. And that's a really beautiful thing. So you could literally have projects in London. You could have a project in Lusaka going on at the same time, and isn't that beautiful?
Yeah,
that's what the internet. You can with the internet beam yourself to another country, and people can know of you in another country, and that's a beautiful thing. Before, and the reason why we did not know of any Black interior designers was because people publish who is around them. And so I think there is also the sense that that we did not exist, but with the internet we could make our existence known.
Absolutely.
And so they could not ignore the existence of you, because you are controlling how you arrive on the internet or how you present yourself on the internet. And so it's helped us. For me, I think the internet is like beautiful. It's like the best invention. I would pick the internet over water.
That's a bit extreme.
Yeah, I know, but for survival,
especially with the level of toxicness on many spaces today.
No, what I mean, like the best of it gives us options.
I hear what you're saying, because when you said, I think where I first came across your name was when I was a Destiny Man.
Yes,
and I think we somehow profiled you in the magazine.
Yeah, I think it was the 40 under 40.
Yes.
Yeah.
Power of 40.
Yeah, the power of 40.
Yeah, 40 under 40.
Those were the best days.
But because in that era, we kind of had to go out and look for people. But at the same time, because you have limited space, and we weren't necessarily, for example, a design publication.
Yes.
We were like a cross between business and lifestyle.
Yeah.
Which means that even if there are 20 designers out there, chances are we're going to cover maybe 2 in a 6-month period.
Sure, yeah.
And there weren't enough publications. Whereas now, like you're saying, and I'd say particularly, say 7-8 years ago, a lot of designers and writers and artists, etc., had a space to share and build a community around that.
Absolutely, yes.
So there is a community around Donald that is. There's your clients, there's the people that know you, that's close. But those of us, like I said, I'm a watcher. So I've spent my life kind of just scrolling and looking at what people are doing if I find it interesting, and just kind of keeping note for myself. Maybe because I used to write and I worked in magazine, but it's helped with this because it's easy for me to go, oh, I want to talk to that person on the podcast. I want to talk to that person because I've kind of seen what they've been doing for the last decade.
Beautiful.
Right?
Yes.
Without being so close to them.
Yes.
So you have a community and you've been able to build that community using the internet and social media, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And I think in the last decade, for a lot of young African, and this is across the continent, African designers and business people and speakers and just across multiple sectors have been able to do what you're talking about, which is build without waiting for media to validate it, or to validate you and say, oh, we think you're a 40 under 40.
Yes, right? Yes, exactly.
Like,
exactly.
You haven't got somebody like Kojo sitting in a room going, okay, what does this person do?
Yes.
Who's this?
Who's that? It became a democracy, and people could literally vote with their money.
Yeah.
With around who they think is deserving of their money. Right? And not waiting for Kojo to tell them what to do.
And it's building the trust.
Yeah.
It's building.
Yeah.
I mean, you said something just before we started where you're like, you're coming here, but because of what you know of me and my work, it's like, actually I'm willing to do that.
Yes, exactly. Right? Exactly.
And I remember when I started blogging, and I used to tell people, look, when you work for a platform, media platform, the validation comes from the name of the platform you work for.
Yeah, okay.
When blogging and social media and all of that started, my argument was always, you have to build that yourself.
You do.
And in building that, you said something about doing the work is you have to be professional. You have to have integrity. You have to be consistent in terms of sharing the values. Because now you're being judged on the basis of your reputation.
Yes.
And reputation is built over time. And as the saying goes, like, you can build it over time and you can destroy it in a moment.
Yeah, I find that I would add something else here. Being able to do that in spite of the government.
Yeah.
Because I think the challenges that we have now are just so unique because, the power could go off. So you're always troubleshooting or even, like thinking of backups, as whether it's backup power, a borehole, all these things that, I always want people when they walk into my office, the music is on, the lights are on. But sometimes because of operating in South Africa, it sometimes made things harder in a sense that you're having to work harder to still keep your service there.
But so it's living the life of an immigrant. So
okay.
So I used to say this in my early days here, and I mean, like, I buy into BE, for example.
Yes.
I buy into affirmative action, but I have a chapter in my book called "Worse Than a White Guy."
Yeah.
Because I'm a foreign African in South Africa.
Okay.
Which means that I am at the bottom of that food chain.
Okay.
I cannot benefit from anything. So I have always operated despite government.
Yeah.
And I've always been of the belief that for citizens of a country, doesn't matter what country it is, it may be harder, but if you operate with that mindset, you will get a lot further.
Yeah.
Because for a lot of people, it's like, oh, there's a sense of entitlement. The government must fix this, government must fix that. When you've had the opportunity to tap into that, it's easy to become complacent.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas when you operate with that mindset, it's like, okay, this is what I'm doing. The only way this is going to succeed is if I apply my mind to the challenges.
Yes.
And the solutions.
You make a really great point. When I started my business, obviously, the load shedding wasn't this severe. So I could work at home in my bedroom without the need of backup power or solar panels. What that meant that it was all up to me to deliver on time. Right? That I wonder how a new designer who does not have those resources right now, like I do, like the solar panels, what it does to your reliability. You need to be reliable in whatever business that you are, but government needs to facilitate that in a sense, like they need to make sure that the power's on and the water is running, and when those things aren't working, you become less reliable.
That's how you communicate.
Yeah, exactly.
So for
exactly.
example, I mean, you're doing work with people internationally.
Yes.
With my client, who's in Switzerland,
Yes.
I had to go through that process of, listen, I'm not able to do that thing right now.
Yeah.
Because this is the situation.
Yes.
And then make a commitment.
Yes.
To when I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And I do find that when you communicate with people.
Yeah.
Because sometimes what feels like a natural inclination is to make excuses. And not say, okay, this is the situation, therefore. I mean, I've had a conversation with a potential new client very recently. And they tried me out in terms of writing something. And despite the other stuff I had, like I pushed it out in like 2 days.
Yes. Yeah.
Now they've come back to me 3 weeks later, say, hey, listen, we want to work with you. So here's the information. Can you write another piece? And I was like, I'm not going to be able to turn it around the way I turned out the last one.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, when? And I went, realistically speaking, a week's time.
Yeah.
And they're like, sure. Okay, I'll have to kind of manage expectations. And I said, I will try and get it out quicker.
Yeah.
But if I don't get it out quicker, I don't want client coming back to me to say, but you said.
Yeah. You have to be organized. And, like I said, when I started, we didn't have these challenges, or they just were not that bad. And luckily now, I'm geared up for the worst possible circumstance. So we are able to just keep running. So whether the area is powered up or not, we are powered up. Whether there's no water or not in the area, we've got the water. But I do understand that took time. I'm just thinking about the people who start out, because I think it's important to grow the industry. But for that to happen, we need to have basic services. Yeah. I was thinking now around how, we spoke about the digital world and the internet. I think that print media, in terms of getting your name out there, is still quite important. I've had instances where people said, I saw you in Destiny magazine, and this is years after, but it landed up in the waiting room of a GP or a dentist, and it's still there. There was a
particular era, like Now I've talked to like a lot of people. Now I've talked to a lot of colleagues, but we all come from the same space. So, Rato Shabalala, SPMPA,
yes,
Pato, Janine Jellas, where we all kind of have parallels in our career. I feel like I have no evidence to it. But it's maybe it's how I've structured my life, but I'm feeling like there is a return. It's like a return to analog. There's a return in some instances, in some spaces, to the more physical, the more tangible, the less digital. Right?
Yes.
In different ways. So with magazines specifically, I've always been fascinated because for us, the magazine was always the hero of a business. But I have followed magazines, I've followed media businesses around the world where you'll find that they have a magazine and it's a great magazine, but it's not the hero of the business. It's a spoke in the wheel, and that's all it is.
Yeah.
Whereas we come from an era where it was like, that was the hero.
It was. Somebody described it this. I was in a magazine and, I submitted the image, and I think it was a House and Leisure Rising Stars. And, I got a full page. It was just me on a full page. And I remember one of the fabric suppliers telling me, if you're in a magazine like that, you just immediately become a disciple.
Meanwhile, it's not even bringing you work.
But it's what it meant to print an image, a lot of consideration by the editor or whoever, the editorial team. It's not about just a picture. They look at the integrity of the picture, the authenticity, 300 DPI, only the highest grade in terms of...
I mean, I'm a natural cynic.
Yes.
My producer will tell you. Maybe also because I know what it looks like behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And it was never as glamorous.
Yes, yeah.
Sometimes you're just doing what you can.
Yes.
It's like things operate a particular way.
Yes.
But
yeah.
the level of deliberateness that somebody from the outside thinks
goes into it.
Goes into a particular thing, and it's just like, yo, we're on deadline.
Okay. Are you saying they looked at the picture and said, just print this one?
No. I mean, like, there's particular standards, but it's... Sometimes it felt like we weren't, at least the spaces I've been in, it's like, we're not deliberate enough.
Okay.
Because you're on the treadmill.
Yes.
Right? You're on the treadmill, so you're not even recognizing a moment. Like, you're taking the time to go, Donald is relevant.
Yes.
And he deserves to be on this page.
Yes.
And that decision is made, and then we move on.
You move on, yeah.
Right? And it's not and for somebody, for Donald, it's a significant moment.
Yeah.
But because your work is creating multiple moments.
Yeah. This is April, you're already working, you're done, you're working on August.
I mean, I used to say, one of the things that I had to get my mind around when I left Destiny Man in particular was around the realization that I lived 2 months ahead.
Oh, yeah.
When an issue hit shelves, I had last looked at that issue like a month ago.
Yeah.
Because your deadlines are structured backwards. So if the printers take 2 weeks to print a magazine,
yeah,
you're working your deadlines going backwards.
Yeah.
And there's certain stories that, your cover story, you're doing it close to time. But there's certain stories that you did 2 months ago.
Of course, yeah.
And it's the sub-editors looked at it, it's been laid out, you've looked at all of that stuff.
You're done.
And then I used to get the dummy, so I used to get the full magazine, usually the week before everything must go to print. But I'm already, like, when I'm looking at the dummy, we're already working, like, we've had the editorial meeting, we know what's going in the next issue. So literally I was constantly, people are like, I love the new magazine, and you take a second, you're like,
which one?
Who do we have on the cover? Like, which one was that? Oh, that was that one.
Yes. Can I?
So having to come back to like working and living in the present,
it's difficult.
Was a weird thing to deal with.
I'm actually doing what you can look forward to next. Like next year, I'm doing a coffee table book.
Ah, awesome.
With a publisher.
I love coffee table books. I collect them.
I'll sign one for you.
Thank you very much. That was not subtle, but I didn't intend to be subtle.
So it's with a publisher based in Milan. So I was in Milan about 2 months ago to just like select the paper, select the cover, the actual, just the process of this paper will work well with these images, and how just literally going through the archives, like my archives, and what makes a great picture is then put in front of you. And we look at every single image and almost dissect it. Is it a great picture? And how can we, or do we need to reshoot? And when we do shoot, it isn't about just taking the camera and pointing it towards this interior. It's like you have to build that interior. You have to tell a compelling story.
Yeah.
And suddenly I've fallen in love with my work again, because I get to see it with a different lens, not a digital lens of this is going to do really well on a screen for 5 seconds and people are going to tap on it, but this is going to live forever. And so there's a different level of consideration when you're building an image or even building a book, right? And it's exciting. It's almost like you look at it with more reverence, with the cleaner eye and a more deliberate eye, and you're wanting the very best.
Yeah.
Because it needs to be worthy of being printed. So I'm sad that the magazines are so quick, that I find that the coffee table books are just so much more. They become art. It's like it's an art book essentially.
They're interesting. I mean, I think globally they're interesting. The magazine's still out there, right? They're just, I guess, a lot more independent and a lot less mainstream. Even the idea, even the magazine as a coffee table book type magazine.
Exactly.
I mean, I was a big fan of Port magazine, for example.
Loved Port.
And I mean, the last time I moved house, look, I threw away a lot of magazines, or like recycled them or gave them to people. But in boxes somewhere, my Port magazines are still there. There's certain magazines that are, because it's that cross between a coffee table book and a magazine.
They built those images. It wasn't just point and shoot.
Yeah.
Like now with your phone, point, shoot, you carry on, and it lives. People don't even remember it. It's just so people possibly even like go scroll through Instagram while sitting on the toilet.
So
but we wouldn't do that with a coffee table book.
So that's why I say it does feel to a certain extent that, I don't know whether it's me just because I'm old and tired and cynical about the world, and I'm just I do the stuff that I drift towards the stuff that I did growing up.
Yeah.
I bought myself a little CD player because I have like 300 CDs sitting in boxes and storage.
Yeah.
And I'm going to bring my CDs out and I've been on platforms. I've had Spotify, for example, for years. Apple Music as well, and I've played, and I enjoy that convenience, and I'm playing music all the time.
Yes.
But sometimes I'm like, I don't want the choice. Like, okay, here's a CD, I put it in, and I play it from beginning to end.
You had to listen to everything to find your favorite. Yeah.
But I play it from beginning to end.
Yeah.
Because I always have music when I'm working.
Yes.
And so I'm finding that there's certain things I do, like I always write in terms of handwrite. When I'm writing for work, I'm typing.
Oh.
But I journal every day.
Okay.
And my to-do list and my notes are always on paper.
Yes.
And so I collect fountain pens.
Oh,
and I do different colors and different pen. And when I leave the house, like today, I'm like, okay, which pens am I going to have on me today?
Jeez.
So it feels like there is a space for it, and more people are starting to acknowledge that space and tap into that space, including younger people.
Yes, we find that things that took time to make, like a fountain pen, it's less disposable. Like there's a greater level of consideration when you're even disposing of a pen like that, because you know what it means, you know what it meant to create it, and you know what it does is that when you write, just the ink blotch, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's just it becomes writing, then becomes an art. It's an act, it's an art. It's not just typing something and, you save it on your notes and you're done. And that book itself, that journal itself becomes an object that is to be kept and stored and revered, and you have a greater level of respect for it. Yeah.
And that's important for someone, I believe, for someone like you, in terms of what you're doing and in terms of ensuring that kind of, as we move forward, there continues to be a space that recognizes that.
Yes.
Because you've used the digital, but you still work with tangible things.
Yes.
You work within tangible, which is kind of how a person feels about themselves, with the tangible, which is what the physical things you're going to put in a space.
Yeah, people ask us about sustainability all the time. Like, how's this sustainable? What are you doing to ensure sustainability and minimize wastage? I think an easy way to do that is to create things that are important and that take time, that, you took time to create, conceptualize, and produce them. Those are high quality items that mean something to someone. Then it becomes less disposable. It's very hard to dispose of something that you created yourself for yourself. And so people then would ask us, I'm looking for a timeless space. But I think if you're creating a space that is unique to that person or that client, it becomes timeless because it reflects who they are. Have you, can you throw that away simply because, it's lost its edge?
It's no longer in fashion.
It's no longer in fashion? No. I think that when you are deliberate about creating something that's authentic, that's unique, and that's high quality, people would think twice about eliminating it from the world's existence.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
That was really cool. Thank you for listening to this conversation. Please leave a review and subscribe. Check out the show notes for links to the guest, the podcast, and myself. I hope you enjoyed listening to the conversation as much as I enjoyed having it.